Hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name's Chris P, and if like me you're just getting into FPV, I thought it'd be nice to do a list of stuff that you are going to need and probably don't even think you're going to need. This is my drone. I've had it a few weeks. I'll talk about that in a moment. But first off, if you're just getting started, one of the first things you're going to need is one of these. It's a controller. This is just a bog standard FrSky Taranis X9 Lite. It's cheap, it's cheerful, it does exactly what I need it to do, which is to fly the drone. The one thing I can do with this is hook it up to the computer and fly sims, which I'll get onto in a minute. So the controller itself was £89.90. It comes as a mode 2, which means your throttle's on the left hand side. Standard gimbals, loads of switches, loads of bits and pieces. It doesn't, however, come with these, which are two 18650 Lite ion batteries. Now these were about £6 each. You'll need two of them to run your controller, and you'll also need to run it or to charge those. One of these is just a standard Nitecore battery charger, and that will charge up both batteries at the same time. A couple of hours. I've used it once since having it, just to charge the batteries up, and it seems to last forever. This is an EU model of FrSky, and you can get FCC models which are for the US, but being in the UK, this is the one that I need to fly. And to make it comfortable, I've got a nice funky lanyard which was another £4. So in total, just for that setup, just for the controller, the batteries, the charger and the lanyard, you're looking at basically £106. Simulators, which is a fantastic way of learning how to fly FPV, especially if you're a beginner like me, because you will crash, and crashing means expense, and expense means repairs, replacements of props, arms, motors and so on. So there's three main ones out. Two of them you'll need to have a Steam account, which is free to do. So you've got LiftOff, which is an FP drone racing simulator, and that's £14.99. You've got Drone Racing League Simulator, which was £7.18, and then you've got a standalone simulator, which is Velocidrone, which is £16.99. So for either one of those, you're looking from just over £7 to nearly £17, or you can have the combined lot for £39.16. One thing you're going to need, especially if you're going to do a build your own drone, and this is really important, is a soldering station. So your bog standard plug in the wall from this end to this end solderer is not going to cut it when it comes to soldering. You're going to need something with a bit more adjustability. So I've chosen this, which is a LONOVE 60-watt soldering station, Amazon, £36.50. So it comes with an adjustable heat controller, various tips and tip sizes. Didn't even bother to open these, didn't need to. And the tips, quite literally, just unscrew from there, lift your tip off, try not to lose it, put that back on, sleeve goes over, collar goes over the top of that, job done. Now this did come with, because if we're in the EU, this was lead free solder. Now of all the videos that I've seen, and I've done a lot of research with watching videos on YouTube and other places, everybody says use leaded solder. For the amount of lead that you're going to come into contact with, it's perfectly safe. If you're worried about it, wash your hands after use, it's not a problem. And this is the lead that I chose, which is a TBS solder. It's got a core in it, and in the core is a resin which helps with soldering, and this is 0.8 millimeters, and that was £5.99 to have that. That's 100 grams, and that will last me a lifetime and then some. Hundreds of drones to be built with that. I also purchased a pen which is the same as the rosin core stuff. It just helps to flow the solder, and because I haven't soldered for an awful long time, I thought I may as well, because it's the last time I soldered was at school, nearly 30 odd years ago, if not longer. So if it picks up on the camera, you can get these, which are a practice board, cost £1.99, very cheap, very cheerful, does exactly what it says. It allows you to practice various sizes, various methods. It means you can get your soldering down to a T before you start trying to put your drone together. The last thing you need is to cause any damage to that. This, unfortunately, I didn't have at the time, and I wish I had, because it saved me a lot of hassle. Helping hands. This, of all things, came from Aldi. It just happened to be in there at the time, and I got it, so it will be used at some point, but it means you can hold your electronics there with the crocodile clips quite easily, and that was £2.99. Now, you don't need this, but I found it useful simply because I've got such poor eyesight as I've got older. My near sight has gone down the pan. Cheerful magnifying glass. Has a stand, has a functioning light. It meant that I could solder with a lot more ease. It's not essential if your eyesight's fantastic, but for me, I found it useful. So just for the soldering alone and all the bits and pieces that were there, that came to £62.45. So as you can see, from starting from nothing so far, it's starting to get expensive. Okay guys, next up we've got some tools. This is just a really basic tool set that you will need, especially if you're soldering and for taking things like your props off your quad, tightening down screws and stuff. So these are just a set of flush wire clippers, £4.99 on Amazon. They didn't get the greatest of reviews, but I'll be honest, for the thickness of wire that I've been cutting, absolutely superb, can't fault them. This is an 8mm socket with a screwdriver bit. Means I can take the props on and off the quadcopter without any hassles. And this is a screwdriver set, so all the bits just pop into the handle. Varying sizes of hex driver, from, let's see, 1.5mm up to 3mm. There's a positive and a flathead screwdriver in there, all magnetic, all fitting to the end. It's not the best one in the world. I will be replacing it at some point with another, but I think that cost at the time, it was £12.99. I'm looking at possibly spending that much on each of the sizes in the future, but it's done the job. Out my own toolbox, it's a little spanner. It's just for taking the antenna off and putting it back on the back of the quad when it's not in use. Okay, next on the list, batteries and charging. These are for the quad, totally separate from what you would use for the transmitter. So this is a ToolkitRC M4Q. It's a balance charger for LiPo batteries. These are T60 connectors, and they do 2 to 4S. Charge 4 batteries all at the same time. It's light, it's actually portable. You can put a larger battery into the back here and use it out in the field if you need to. It does a great job. It takes approximately 30 minutes to charge the batteries that I use, which are these two. These aren't the best batteries in the world, but they do a grand job. They allow me to fly. So they're 4S, 150 milliamp ohms, rated at 120C. They're good. They do what they need to do, and they were £19 each. The battery charger, by the way, was £54. So batteries you can never have enough of, because prices and costs and getting everything else. I've got two for the moment. That's enough to give me about 8 minutes flying time at most. But for that, it's 30 minutes to recharge. It's not a big issue. I just do little and often as I'm still learning. Something that you may want to invest in, but you may not, especially if all your batteries are looking the same, is just a battery checker. It'll tell you how much charge is in your battery. It'll tell you the what's in each cell. It's just a useful thing to have. Most people recommend getting these. We're charging LiPos. I don't know whether you can see it on the camera, but it does say there, warning, may contain magic smoke. What they're referring to is, if these get damaged, and they do with crashes and everything else, what can happen is they can catch fire. So no battery should be charged unless unattended, and what they do recommend is one of these, which is a LiPo safe bag. So it's a safety bag you put your battery into, close it up when it's charged. If for whatever reason the battery does go up in smoke, it contains the fire. Now, I wouldn't recommend charging these in the house. I always tend to charge mine outside. I'm lucky enough to have outbuildings where I can do that safely. And for the sake of leaving the batteries for 30 minutes, it's not worth the risk for the amount of damage that these things can do. If you're unsure, check out YouTube, look for LiPo battery fires, and some of the things people have done to make them catch on fire, so that you can see how quickly they go up. It really isn't worth taking the risk, and all for the sake of, I got two of these for £12 off Amazon. It's peanuts really. £12 to save thousands of pounds worth of damage. So last but not least, and this isn't so much a charging item, but I kind of didn't know where to put it. This is what they call a smoke stopper. So this bit, the T60, goes into your quad, your battery goes into there, and this is for when really you've very first built your quad, especially if you're soldering, and it's like a mini fuse. So if there's any issues with any of your connections, any of your wires, if you've bridged any of your solders, this will save your quad and save you a lot of headaches. So if this trips out, you know you've got an issue with the quad. If it doesn't trip out, you're good to go. Okay, sundries and spares next. There's going to be loads of stuff that I probably haven't even thought about or even got here. I know there's double-sided tape that I've been recommended to use to help with isolating components, especially electrical components. But this is what I've got, and this is some of the stuff I kind of knew I needed. There are other parts of the stuff that I wasn't too sure on, and I've just ended up getting anyway. So first off, cable ties. These are your bread and butter of putting a drone together. You'll use quite a few of these, everything from teeny tiny to these I got from a local car shop. You're better off spending a few extra pounds getting the quality ones, because the last thing you need is these breaking when there's no need, when you really don't want them to. Electrical tape used for either strapping your wires down, various other bits and pieces, isolation, yeah, pennies for that. This stuff's brilliant. It's heat shrink tubing. This was a rather large box which came from Amazon, various sizes, does everything I need it to, and for £12 that'll probably last me the lifetime of me flying drones. Now the drone that got delivered, sorry, came with, I'll see if I can put it on here to give you an idea. These, which are lock nuts, and as you can see at the bottom of the nut it displays out a bit. Now the one problem I had with these is once the props were on, the nut wouldn't go down far enough to lock with an eye lock, so I ended up purchasing some of these, which are slightly heavier. They're carbon steel. They've got a slightly lower profile. If I put them side by side, you can see, and they lock on much better to the props, hold the props in place a lot better. The first few times I flew, I had to keep tightening these up, and it's becoming a pain. So ordered these, came the next day, £5.49 for 50 of them. So they're useful to have in. Eventually the nylon does wear on them, so it's worth replacing quite regular. Big bag like that, it should last quite a while. And the one thing I wasn't expecting to have to buy just yet were these. Now these are the antenna that go onto the receiver on the quad. Now these are quite small and quite fiddly. Let's put it onto a lighter background so you can see. And they break with ease. They're called whiskers, as you can see. They're called whiskers for a reason. A bit like cat's whiskers. Bought a pack of 10 of these, I think it's for about £11, and I've already replaced 3 of these so far, purely because of where the aerial got into the way of the props and it just obliterated the aerial. So consider buying some of these, especially if you know the receiver type and the fitment type. Be aware that there's lots of different fitment types, so you'll need to get the one specific for your receiver. Another thing you'll need are props, replacement props. These are sold in packs of 4. I got these with the quad. I also bought a couple of extra packs because the quad came from the States. More on that in a moment. There's 2 clockwise, 2 counterclockwise. They only fit one way, and £5 for a bag. I know I'm going to get through plenty of these, even in years to come. I'm still going to crash. I'm still going to need replacements. They are what they are. They're just consumables. You can never have enough props, so always consider more props. Okay, so finally onto the quad. This is the quad I decided to purchase. It's a Xylo 5-inch freestyle Joshua Bardwell edition build. Joshua Bardwell, if you search for him on YouTube, is an absolute, yeah, he's one of these people, what he doesn't know about quads is probably not worth knowing about, and he has put this together along with a build video for analog and digital if you want to go down the digital route, and he goes through it step by step, how to set it up, how to build it, how to solder it, or which wires to solder where. So when this quad came, it was just a bag of parts. Everything on this has been put together and soldered by myself, and as you can see, it's been flown, but it's an amazing piece of kit. Now, as you can see, that prop there looks slightly cleaner than there, so I've already had one prop break. It's covered in grass stains and everything else, simply because I've been flying it outside and the grass has been slightly longer than it should be. But we're coming into springtime, so it is what it is. Quite wet outside as well. In case you're wondering what these are my aerials, and they're on the thick zip ties, which I showed earlier. A bit of shrink wrap round. Now originally when I had set this up, I had the proper plastic covers that come out here. The aerials go through there, and within 30 seconds one had snapped. I think it'd been this one. The prop had gone round, wrenched it off, and quite literally taken it clean out. So I didn't follow all the advice that was given to me with building these, and so I have now, and I put them there. But this is a fantastic build. Now this came from the States. Now in the States this retails at $250, which in our money, with postage and everything else, it came to £280. Now I could have bought a quad cheaper here, but it was nice knowing that I could follow the video footage and just build the quad step by step and have an understanding how these are put together, because when they break, and they do break, if you don't know how it's put together, you're not going to be able to fix it. So that was the thing. And yes, there are plenty of other build videos. There are UK people that put these together, but I'm quite a fan of Joshua's videos. I support him, and he makes a bit of money off the sale of these, so I thought, why not? So it worked out that with purchasing the drone and the shipping, it was £230, and then you pay an additional £50 for the import tax. So for me it was worth it. I really wanted it. I wanted to support Joshua, so there it is. So the only thing that's missing, and I haven't purchased yet, is a set of goggles, and the reason for that is I've had to do this in bits and pieces, which is one of the reasons why I've done the video. It's like, what does it really cost to set up from scratch if you've got no kit whatsoever? How much is it going to cost to start flying drones, FPV? Well, just with all the bits and pieces that I've shown you, minus the goggles, you're looking at £666.26. Now, some of this stuff you won't need. If you've got decent eyesight, you won't need any magnifying glass. You may already have a good enough tool set to put together that you can put that aside. You may be flying RC planes and think, well, I don't need the controller, I don't need this, that and the other, but this is purely from scratch, the essential bits and pieces that you will need to be able to get quite literally off the ground. So at the moment I'm flying line of sight, which is interesting, harder than it looks, and kudos to anybody that does fly line of sight. Next month I plan on getting the Skyzone Cobra X goggles, which are a box goggle, ideal for me because I wear glasses for my eyesight, so I can wear glasses underneath them, and then the real journey of my FPV will begin. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, like, maybe subscribe, comment if you want to. See you later, guys.